Yo, 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 mic check. Yo, can you hear me, coach? You guys can unmute your mics.
Yes, sir. I can
So,
hear you.
yes, sir.
Yes,
All right,
sir.
guys, welcome. All right, salute the kosher, salute the Saul. Can you hear me, Saul?
Yeah, I can hear you.
All right,
Thanks for helping this come together, and thanks, Kosher, for joining us here at Machismo TV for this show today.
No
Uh,
doubt, man. All the pleasure, brother. All the pleasure.
yeah.
all right, excellent. So this show's been curated by Saul. Some new content on the channel. I want to thank him. I want to thank Kosher for being a guest.
Sure.
We're going to talk about Black men's mental health today. Um, from the title, we're going to go through some shorts, and then we're going to go over some Bobby E. Wright, pioneer in this space, and the Saul's going to facilitate the majority of the conversation. But let's start off real quick. Let me get your opening statements. Kosher. Kosher?
Yes, I'm here. Go ahead, brother.
Yeah, can I get your opening statement before we start the show?
Yeah, I hear a lot of music in the back. I didn't hear that. Say it again.
I said, can I get your opening statement before we start the show?
Well, listen, I am the kosher clinician. I'm a licensed therapist from the great state of the Union, the Tar Heel State. I count it an honor and a pleasure to be in this conversation. We know that there's a psychological warfare that's been waged on the mind of men for years, and it appears it's continued to proliferate in these modern times. I think these conversations are necessary to eradicate many of the social ills impacted on Black men and men in general. Many times, the voices of men are suppressed, and many times men don't have a voice to share their concerns. So I think this conversation is not only important, but also to hear some of the theoretical implications from Dr. Bobby Wright. So I look forward to the conversation. Look forward to having a conversation with you and my man Saul.
Well played, sir. Well played.
Um,
So, all you opening statement, sir.
Open statements is first things first. Shout out to the kosher clinician. He's definitely been a day one and a friend of the channel, Machismo TV, and supporting my content over at Salty Balls or whatnot. He's definitely been somebody who's shown himself to be a wise man with an in-depth and breadth knowledge of mental health and how it affects Black men. And so today, what we're going to do is take the sort of theoretical framework from Bobby E. Wright, who's a pioneer in psychology for Black men,
Right.
and actually see how these sorts of implications impact mental health delivery today. Okay. It looks like we're kind of far from that. And a lot of people have been, there's been murmuring and musings about whether or not Black men benefit from mental health today. And we would like to make the case how the correct services and accurately delivered can actually have a positive impact. Then we'll go to other phenomenon and just the sort of prevalence of um, mental ills and how it impacts people's behaviors, moral decay, internalized self hatred, and those are going to be some of the themes. But nevertheless, I appreciate you coming, Kosher.
Mhm.
Uh, Most definitely for being here, and we will go on ahead and peel back the onion. So, are you ready? Let's go on ahead and roll this first clip, just so we can get a little bit of what's here, what we have here. You ready, Machismo?
Oh yeah, excellent. Yeah, all right, coach. So we're gonna start out light. Saul picked two of these clips off social media. One's like an animation, but it's the conversation that's being had. So that kind of speaks to, and it kind of speaks to some of the present mentality with regard to disassociative behavior that we see going on in the community. Then we have another short clip with a woman acting out on an airplane. And then we'll pull it all back around, and then we'll get into the Bobby Wright section of the show. Fair enough?
No doubt, no doubt.
All right, excellent. So I'm going to play this clip, and I'm going to do a follow-up question. We're going to do you, Kosher, at the top. You guys each get 3 minutes to give your commentary, and then you guys can piggyback on each other in 3-minute rounds. Ready? So let's go.
Man, fuck 12 on the dead homies, cuz. Free my nigga Biscuit, cuz. Biscuit in jail? Wow, free my nigga. Bro, what did he do? Cuz lost in the game of 21 at the park, so cuz shot the park up, cuz. Then he caught a bitch snitching to the feds on the phone, so he kidnapped her baby, cuz. He kidnapped a baby? Then the pigs pulled up, cuz let off on 3 cops. Pew, 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 pew. He kidnapped a baby? Cuz stole a car and got on, cuz. A baby. They chase cuz, spin cuz car out, pull him out the car and start beating his ass for no reason. What? For no reason? Cuz do not deserve to be in jail, cuz. Free my nigga, cuz. Fuck the police. Yo, cuz. Shut your dumb ass up. He deserved to be under the jail in a fucking box. Stop saying free the homie for niggas who deserve to be in jail.
All right, excellent. This is where you drop your "on my mama," Kosher.
Right.
So let me frame the question for you. You take it where you will. It's satire, but it does speak to like this disassociative way that a lot of the younger black men in general, a particular segment are. How they're interpreting in reality and their concepts of right and wrong, and then the things that we cling to in the community. What say you, sir?
Well, yeah, that's a good question. Dysfunction is the new normal in the black community. I think a lot of it is embedded in a deep-seated hatred for oneself. Shakespeare said it better than me. He said, "To thine own self be true." But when your truth is promulgated and destroying others, and killing people that look like you, then I think it's a problem. I think a lot of it's a low self-esteem. I think a lot of it's the lack of fathers pouring into their sons. And I think a lot of it's transgenerational trauma being embedded into the psyches of black men and black boys and black girls. That's one of the main reasons I don't think black people should use the word, the ninja word, the NIGGA word. And the reason why, there's a book that talks about post-traumatic slavery disorder. And you can actually transmit trauma through generations. Some of it is conscious, but some of it is unconscious. And some of those words that was more or less emphasized by that young man could be the results of unresolved post-traumatic slavery disorder.
Well played, sir. Well played. Saul, what say you on the clip? And also, please, some commentary on Kosher's opening salvo.
Well, I agree with Kosher in that, it is, based on normalized trauma, dysfunction, and, we are a culture where, that has been, turned towards self-degradation. And, there's also the sort of impoverished moral value system where there's to expand this a little further, decay in communities by virtue of families, because families are a collection of what makes a community, right? Without the father there, when it comes to impulses, restraint, structure, which would be pro-social means to avoid from people who are just, hedonistic and just doing things just unregulated, who are just simply step above cavemen. I think, that has been kind of propagated by female socialization. Okay. More along the lines of the person who actually says, free the dead homies and, stop snitching and all this other stuff. I mean, let's just keep it real. You have the group of people who validate this, fuckery because, and one, that's the sort of worldview that they have it. And then you have people who have a functional level who know that something's wrong with this and not normal. They're actually afraid to call it out. They're actually afraid. They're fearful to call it out, right? You have preachers You have teachers, you have coaches, you have people who are supposed to be functional assets within the community who actually don't call this stuff out.
Right.
Okay, and it's sickening. And I'm glad that he actually shown this. And this is an extreme version of, when Tay Tay and Demonte come home from jail, he gets a party, and Justin, who graduates from UCLA or University of North Carolina, don't even get any party, let alone a visit to the graduation. And there's a sort of distorted psyche with this. But unless Kosher wants to piggyback off of that,
No, well played. Hold on, let me. Are they filling up in here? Okay. Let me read these. Let me read a couple of these super chats off. Wrench Turner in the building says support Black Male Media. That's
shout out Rich Turner.
Wrench Turner. One of the day ones. I see everybody filling up in here. Let me hit it up. Okay, our guy, Lord of Brooklyn, BK for life. So my support for all your hard work. Critical mass has been reached. Yo, you ain't never lied, homie. You ain't never lied. We be in the paint with this. Yo, shout out everybody in the chat. I see y'all up in here. JB Designs, Mike Reed, XLR Pro. I see you brought some people over here too, Kosher. Gregory Scotland. That's
shout out to Gregory.
Yeah, shout out to Gregory. Black Empowerment 01. All right, solid.
And for those who want to support our guests, we dropped Kosher's his Cash App in the chat. So, just FYI, there is a Kosher clinician tax. I'm sure you want to be humble about it, but there's a tax there. If y'all want to support the brother. All right.
Joe Ethereal in the building. He says, salute. All right, bet. All right, you guys showed up for a good conversation. Kosher, let me jump back to you. Do you want to piggyback on anything Saul said? We can jump to the next warm-up clip that Saul has.
Yeah. I do want to piggyback on. I think what Saul's points were very salient to the point. There's been similar work, machismo, that more or less harkens into what Saul is talking about. They did a study of elephants, wild elephants, and when the elephants then held the male bull elephants to corral bad behavior, they became very rambunctious. No different than some of the teens and some of the young boys that were a part of Crips and Bloods. There's some music in the back, guys.
I got you.
They were part of Crips and Bloods. Boys get their identity from their father, no different than theology. Jesus said, I've glorified the Father, and the Father has glorified me. But when boys don't have the proper or the requisite identification through their fathers, they become rogue. The power of that experiment, when they brought the bull elephants in to corral all the excessive testosterone, the young juvenile elephants actually settled down. So just like there's a positive and a negative socialization associated with animals, it can also be applied to human beings. We're in a crisis. We're at a critical crisis when it comes down to fatherhood. But that critical crisis is not the masses, in my opinion, of Black men. It's a percentage of Black men causing chaos and causing the rampant dysfunction that we see, which in essence is leading to what's called matrilineal succession, something that needs to be eradicated if we're going to have a more perfect union. A union that I don't see proliferating in these current times.
Well played, sir. Kosher, check your Cash App. I think Rent said he sent you something.
Okay, all right. Tell him I appreciate it. No doubt.
All right. Yeah, sent. Gregory Scotland. Many want to speak of a Black community and yet extol single motherhood as an example of family.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody want to respond to Gregory Scotland's super chat? I think he's spot on.
Yeah. I think Gregory is spot on. Shout out to Wrench Turner for the 10, and shout out to my man Saul for the 100, man. I appreciate it, man. Always showing love. So yeah, Gregory's right. Many want to speak. So one of the things I've always said, Saul and Machismo, is this: you cannot have a black community without the aggrandizement of the black man. You can't have a black community because the black man, or men in general, get structure and order. The great teacher Jesus said, you can't take new wine and put it into old wineskin. You're going to change the wineskin. The current foundation is broken. The current foundation does not aggrandize men. I was just on the show recently, a few minutes ago before I came on with you guys, Ulysses Bush Slaughter. And you see the manifestation many times on Mother's Day and Father's Day. When it comes down to Father's Day, no support, no respect, no honor. But the scripture is clear: it's to honor thy father and thy mother, not honor thy mother and thy father. And so until you get back to the root, which is the father, until you get back to the root, which is of life, which is the father gives credence to all things. All this talk about a black community is just poppycock, man. It'll never come into fruition into this current milieu until we get back to the basics, until we aggrandize fathers, until we realize the importance of fathers, and until we venerate fathers at the same rate that we venerate women. Until that happens, it'll never work, because God is a God of order. He's a God of structure, and men bring structure and order. You look at societies, communities with their equitable fathers, the boys, the children, the families, and the communities thrive. But the problem with America is that they want taxation without representation. And I call it a term that I created, Saul and Machismo, called the commodification of subjugation. I call it the commodification of subjugation, a fancy word that basically says the world wants black men to be commodities or utilities, to be subjugated under the throne of a gynocratic order where they don't represent men, don't appeal to men, don't respect men, but yet want to high tax men and not give men the proper respect that they deserve. When you honor men, venerate men, lift men up, and encourage them to be progressive and to move forward. But until then, we will continue to have these circular conversations. And based on the data from the last 50, 60 years, things have gotten progressively worse, not better.
And Coach just dropped the damn mic on that one.
and you dropping them under 3 minutes. Well played, sir.
No doubt.
Shout out the chat real quick. We got Nameless in the building. We got Glow Hardy in the building. And Glow Hardy says a super chat. It says great content. Gotta support.
No
Yo,
doubt.
man, I know this ain't our regular time. You guys got Saul to thank for this curated show outside of our normal time block. He curated this conversation, so we're gonna really get into it. And once again, like I said, you got Saul to thank for linking up with Kosher. You've got two high level clinicians here, black male clinicians, and we're gonna get into these conversations. As opposed, you see the nonsense with these TikTok therapists and all these women online quoting misandry, and they're actually supposed to be there for black men's mental health. You got two high level black male professionals here, and we're going to have a conversation. Nameless says, I would make the additional points that men have remained as the status of commodity since the event of Jim Crow legislation. I tend to be in agreement with that statement. Mm-hmm. All right, gentlemen, we are at the 24-minute mark. Let me do this. Kosher, can I get a time check on you? How much time do I have to facilitate this show for you?
I can probably do about 4:30 at the most, because I have to run at some point. I actually had a show scheduled for the day, but I said I'm gonna rock and roll with you guys, man. I just pushed it back, and I'm gonna show support for you brothers, man.
All right, fantastic. I appreciate you. So you said 4:30. All right, man. We had you up out of here before then. All right, okay. You know what I mean? I just want to respect your time. Super sticker, Tevin King, $20. Yo, y'all showing love to the. All right, so I saw you curated ahead here. All right, we're gonna let's jump to this next clip that Saul pulled up, and this is the light part of the show before we get into the heavy work. Till we get into the heavy work. So we had the brothers there with the satire, for the dead homies on my mama. Shout out Kosher Clinician on my mama.
On my mama.
Now we have an ongoing conversation here on this channel, and we've covered it on many of the Sunday shows. I'm of the strong belief that there is a massive mental health issue going on in the community in general, but it is really overwhelming the women as such, and in terms of the ongoing misandry, and now we're seeing them flip out in public. We're seeing them become normatively violent. We even reviewed the FBI report that recently came out that shows, for the first time in history, the American Black woman is not only the most violent woman of all women ethnicities in the United States in terms of murder and violent crime, but for the first time on the FBI stats, the American Black woman is now more violent than the American white man in terms of committing homicides and violent crime. That's unheard of. And we know how violent the white man is. All right, so this clip is it's loading up. Here we go. This is an incident.
This is the shocking.
This is an incident on a plane, and this isn't the first one. We've seen the women tearing up airports, tearing up Walmarts, attacking men in public, attacking police. Our guy Theo Coop does a ongoing dash cam, body cam, those body cam videos. This is on a plane, and there's a new number of these, and they're playing it in the on social media as demonic possession. I'm gonna play this is about 3 minutes. I'm gonna play it halfway through, stop, and then I'm gonna get you guys' take on this from a mental health perspective, and we'll do kosher at the top of the clip. Tevin King, hold on. Shout out, another super sticker. Thanks for supporting the channel, bro, and supporting the chat. What do we got here? Nameless says, men to navigate mental illness usually are driven to deficit, not born with it. That's why solutions for Black men tends to be in the form of functional tools rather than sympathy and medication. Man, you guys are on fire in the chat. All right, let's go. Let's roll this clip.
Moment, a woman swears profusely and climbs the entire plane during a demonic meltdown. Passengers and cabin crew on this Detroit-bound plane are left stunned as this distressed woman climbs the plane seats while yelling at the top of her lungs. The video filmed by a fellow passenger shows the woman screaming as she climbs the seats, many of which are empty between rows of travelers. She does not appear to be speaking to anyone in particular, and she stands on the arm and neck rests to project her statements to the rest of the plane. At that point, 3 men slowly move forward to usher her to the front.
Go home, bro.
She must have took something.
One passenger.
I'm gonna stop it right there. Kosher, 3 minutes to land your plane. Just offhand, give me a cold read. What is as a mental health professional, what do you see happening there?
That's a great question, man. One of the things I learned when I was at graduate school at UNC, there's a concept called the phenomenological argument. And many times, machismo, the things that look like demonic possession could be a somatic response. Soma means body in the Greek, or there could be some kind of abnormality going on in the body. That's why you have to rule it out. But however, sometimes because of empiricism minimizes the spirit realm of the esoteric. Could this woman have been going through something demonic? But perhaps. I'll tell you about a story in Indiana where psychiatrists and doctors went to a home in Indiana. It was on national news. You can check it out at some point. And the woman the children were walking up the walls and they were levitating. So in this situation, is it mental illness? I don't know. It could be. Well, also it could be demonic too. And so I would have to do more information or try to more or less get more context. Of course, it could be 50-50. It could be demonic or it could be bona fide mental illness, in my opinion.
Let me give you a follow-up question for that because you're under the 3-minute mark. Could be demonic, could be mental illness. Give me, you got 2 minutes. Give me a correlation, let's say, because we speak upon this, like your mental condition, the degenerate way the majority of these women are living their lives. We know CDC just released a report. They have the highest 50% of the BW population has herpes. That's just came out from the CDC.
Right.
AC just covered it yesterday. And and here's a caveat. Here's what I didn't know. If you're a herpes carrier, that leaves you more open to catching houses in Virginia. Do you know houses in Virginia? HIV.
Okay, gotcha.
50% of these are recent CDC numbers. Those are frightening numbers. So with that and how that contributes to mental illness, and we say like a lot of this music is demonic. Is there a correlation in your mind between those two things? And the behavior in general, not necessarily saying possession as it were, but a set of behaviors being demonic in nature.
Yes. So not to get too far into the esoterical theology, when a person is not under the guise of masculine order and masculine structure, when a person is not necessarily under the umbrella or the shadow of the Almighty, one could argue that they could be more prone or at risk of suppression and oppression. Suppression and oppression is not the same as possession. Sometimes demonic oppression and suppression can look like mental illness. And based on what you were saying with the high, how can I say it, STIs, we know there's a transfer of energy when men and women come together. And so when you got a woman that got a bunch of different men energy inside of her, that can look like mental illness. It could be a myriad of things. But just on cusp, I would say that some of the behaviors that you're saying now and not having the covering of a masculine man will lead to some level of paranoia or some level of oppression, in my opinion.
Well played, sir. Oh, you brought your A game today, Kosher. And still under 3 minutes. So,
yeah, no doubt. Right.
So, I'm going to do the same line of questioning. Right. Give me a cold read, and then piggyback on what Kosher on Kosher's premise thereafter. 3 minutes to land your plane, sir.
I think this is more or less a snippet of what is to come. I mean, we've seen the Walmart videos. We've seen, them act out in beauty supplies. We've seen them stealing things or whatnot. But, I mean, even the sort of level of delusion and the way they behave with police, AC actually has been on top of that these last couple of days, in particular, when it comes to the sort of delusions of grandiosity. But one must not necessarily neglect the sort of nature of the threat, particularly in their proximity with children. A lot of the government in particular award these children to be under the guardianship of these women, and you're starting to find more kids being thrown off bridges or set on fire or poisoned and stuff like that. And it's just kind of written off as mental health. So I think I wanted to show this actually as a sort of a harbinger of where we're at. Okay, where we're at. And one could argue mental health. One could argue spiritual decay. And not to, prophesize or anything like that, but there are the 7 deadly sins, which Kosher more or less alluded to, when it comes to debauchery. anger, wrath, gluttony, jealousy, all those different things that combined with doing things because you're so caught up in selfishness, the sort of model of do what thou willst, would you say, which is the sort of satanic model,
right.
You kind of upend your sort of holy veil, and so whatever comes your way comes your way. Whether it is somebody else with a sort of degenerate lifestyle, and you sort of spiritually inherit that through by way of a sex act, quote unquote, sex magic, right? And them getting themselves involved with witchcraft or idolatry, materials, and everything else. So we just really, really have to be mindful that, the mind actually has a sort of naturalistic speed limit, just like, there's natural law when it comes to spirituality. Okay. And I think it's catching up with them. So the best way to enrich yourselves, gentlemen, is to pour into yourself. Now, this sort of space is very much informational. Okay. One could claim SBE, they could do that. Before there was shame, blame, and explain for Black men, there's always been shame, blame, explain on Jermaine. Let's get that first. Okay. There's always the same blame and explain on Jermaine before there was an SBE. But this is for information so that you all can navigate and look intrinsically for self-development, because it is what it is. There's collateral damage, and you see that. And shout out to you, BMI 3000. I know who that is. Hey, y'all going ahead, y'all subscribe to this brother here. Y'all make sure
his
y'all
book is out.
Exactly. That's what I was about to announce next. His book. Yep. 100%.
We'll post the book in the chat.
Shout out the dog. That's my brother.
See
Shout
you
out
in the building. Hey guys, let me read these two super chats. You guys knocked that clip out the park. There's actually no need for me to play the rest of it. You guys brought your A game. Let's do Mr. Gregory Scotland. He says, it is interesting. If Kosher and Saul were on a purple pill panel and we're discussing this airplane video, women on that platform would say, what about the men, in order to divert? Spot on. I 100% agree. And then we got
somehow or another we led to that happening, right?
Yeah. I mean, what do you mean? BGS got the jump clip. He got the sound bite. It's always Jermaine's fault. Wrench Turner says, thoughts on a woman who still shows adoration for a deceased ex and maintains contact with his family, even though they have no ties. I shared my opinion, but I'm interested in yours as professionals. Well, very good question, Wrench. All right, hold on. Let me reset the timer. Give me a second. Kosher, 3 minutes to land your plane. What's your response to Wrench's question that he posits here?
Well, a woman like that is emotionally unavailable, and she's also devoid of having proper boundaries if she's in a current relationship. One of the things men don't understand, machismo and Saul, is this. Because so many women have had so many sexual partners, sometimes it's hard to detach oneself from someone else. And if a man is dealing with a woman that's still associated with another man or still hold some kind of romantic interest for that person, he needs to either set clear boundaries and let him know what he's going to deal with and not deal with, or let that woman go. So I would say a woman like that is emotionally unavailable to the person that she's with. That woman could have some attachment issues from the past. She could have dependent personality disorder, perhaps, but also she could have unresolved trauma that was predicated in neglect, where that person could remind her of the person that left her in the past, and she could still be hanging on to that image. You can look at it from a myriad of angles, but I think a lot of it is just a lack of respect, and also a lack of also having attachment issues and being emotionally unavailable. Women that have dealt with neglect and abuse, they often hop from relationships to relationship to relationships to satiate the feelings of loneliness, which in essence is abandonment issues. So that's my take.
Well played, sir. Look at you under the mark every time. Good at this. Saul, let me pull Wrench's question back up. This is a very good question, and I'm sure this applies to a lot of the brothers listening. I'll reread the question. Thoughts on a woman who still shows adoration for a deceased ex and maintains contact with his family, even though they have no ties. I shared my opinion, but I'm interested in yours as professionals. What say you, sir?
I mean, one thing I would want to know, obviously, so is how much time or whatnot. I mean, people deal with grieving at different rates of time. That's a big thing. It could become complex grief or whatnot, but very much at the very least, it's an issue with boundary. And much to Kosher's point, this person is emotionally consumed in somebody else, so they can't give their 100% or their A game with the person they are with. And so, what I would do I don't know if you're still with the individual or not, is actually, create a sort of environment where you're supportive and empathetic, but, also couple that with, some sort of expectations that, if, you're still going through that and you're not healing, then, this is actually holding up our development and our ability to kind of develop some sort of intimacy, kinship, communication, trust, and bondage in our relationship, because life happens, tragic things happen or whatnot, but she's not necessarily allowing herself to give room for the sort of growth, or whatnot. And I would like to juxtapose that with some of the things that women most often do would be associated with this. You get blamed and treated for some shit you ain't even do that the ex has done. And it's a sort of same wavelength of mindset that person is still stuck there and haven't created room to even grow with you. It's coming from the same place. So if that person isn't actually putting in the work to actually heal, and they're constantly wallowing around in this sort of victimhood thing, I would say it is a blank check for the bank of fuckery. And they will continue to try to cash in and leverage that, not to develop themselves or actually hold themselves accountable when it comes to those sorts of boundaries or whatnot, unless she is not necessarily being clear about, quote unquote, the other family members and what those ties are, and I'll land my plane there.
Well played, sir. Well played, sir. Okay, guys, we are at the 44-minute mark. Before we get into Bobby Wright, which is the meat of the discussion between these two professionals, I'm going to posit two questions to the gentlemen on the panel. And these questions are, because they are in the healthcare profession, these are two black professional men at really pretty much the top of their game, very high level. We see a lot of black men going to black female therapists. We see a lot of black female therapists going to black female a lot of black women going to black female therapists. And what we've seen play out on social media is that a lot of these black female therapists are misandrous. And they're projecting their own insecurities, textbook misandry, onto women who are there trying to get some particular healing. But in particular, they're projecting their misandry onto the men, and in my opinion, doing far more damage than good.
Right.
That being said, these gentlemen on the panel, I'm gonna pose two questions to them that you, as a black male who may or may not be looking to get therapy, two questions that you may want to have in mind, and have these professionals answer them, so you get a cognizant of idea of what the let's say appropriate language would sound like. So I'm going to go with you first, Kosher. Let me ask you this one. How do you approach building a therapeutic relationship with your clients? 3 minutes to land your plane, sir.
How do I build a therapeutic relationship? Well, first you look at them through what's called a strength-based perspective. You look at their strengths, and you align yourself with their strengths. Also, you try to use what's called positive regard. That's just a fancy way of showing them love and showing them respect, and being empathetic to the current situation that the person is having. I think the next thing is to make sure you set clear boundaries and let that client know that you have their best interest. One of the things that me and Saul have talked about in the past, there's a dissemination of the treatment model that you use in therapy. That's a dissemination. So that dissemination, that's a science. That's the science. The modality is the science of therapy. But also the art is how you actually apply it to the client's issue. So having a congruent conversation with the client, knowing where the client is at, using strength-based outcomes to corral that knowledge around that client, and letting that client know that you have their best interest as you try to help them in the healing process.
Well played, sir. You are a fantastic guest coacher.
Well, that's not fine for your mind, man. That Leo swag personified, man.
Well played, sir.
No doubt.
I'm going to direct the same question to you, Saul. And like I said, for everybody in the chat and the replay gang, these are 2 questions that you should consider when selecting a therapist, when you're going to do your research on perhaps pursuing mental health. The question is, Saul, how do you approach building a therapeutic relationship with your clients?
I would say validating their reality, okay? And not acting as though, you're an expert in their life. They are the expert in their life, right? And they're looking for you to kind of work with so that they're able to reach destiny. Destiny and the formula thereof is skills plus willpower. Now, the therapist, my job would be more along the lines to bestowing you with the skills for healing, right? But you're the expert in your life. Only thing you have to do is want to walk through that door, right? If I sit and I actually pretend that I'm the expert and have some sort of agenda, then that's tantamount to brainwashing and influence, and that's not necessarily something that people like. People want somebody who listens, who's empathetic, who just doesn't just kind of eclipse their voice with some sort of professional arrogance, would you say? Mm-hmm. And I think that's what's going around in these places or whatnot, is professional arrogance, over identification, counter transference and things like that. Mm-hmm. That you're seeing from some of these therapists that have been shown on TikTok and things like that. And then to take it much further, you're having a proliferation of the armchair therapists, therapy speak, and gurus who give therapy a bad name. So you want to distinguish yourself from those other people so that you can build a level of trust, because there's a lot out there to create the sort of narrative that mental health treatment is bad. We're floating in like dirty waters with that, and actually making it very clear that that you have their best intent at stake. I'll land my plane there.
Mm-hmm.
Well played, sir. Do you want to piggyback on that, Kosher?
I think Saul is correct. I think being empathetic and not weaponizing academia, or weaponizing what you've taught to control and corral the client. One of these clients must understand and realize is that therapists are human beings. That's number one. But some therapists actually are undercover narcissists, and they'll use you for their validation. And if you don't know what to look for, like Saul was talking about, that heightened arrogance, they can actually use you as a host to feed that narcissistic supply. And it's unfortunate, but some people actually get in the profession to actually help understand their own pathology, which I think can be good and bad if they haven't gotten the requisite help prior to getting into the profession. So that's my take.
Well played, sir. Okay.
Let me go ahead and touch that once again.
So yours.
Yeah, he is absolutely correct. I mean, there's a lot of people out here who are unhealed, who basically eclipse the client's right to self-determination. That's one of the hallmarks of therapy, self-determination, right? So if you're using things like leveraging guilt, shame, and all these other things in the therapy session based on your own experiences rather than the client's experiences, then you over-identified and you're unhealed, and you're actually doing more damage to the world than actually healing. So you hear a lot of people interject their experiences, as if, they want to try to validate the client, and they're really not. They're actually doing things to create a sort of delusion, a distorted reality of this world. And kosher is absolutely right. You have people who want to feel needed, and they have some sort of narcissistic supply, and they probably should not be in a profession, let alone life coaches, gurus, or anything associated what would be remotely considered client care. It's very, very dangerous. So even Kevin Samuels, Kevin Samuels was someone who actually was motivational. He actually was a social commentator. Some would even argue a shock jock in some regards, because he was very much entertaining, right? But guess what? What did he always say? Go see a therapist. Go see a professional. What does kosher tell people do? Book a session.
Book a session.
Book a session. So, these are people who actually are, confined to some level of a code of ethics and, some sort of guidelines and stuff like that. And people actually have continuing training, evidence-based research training, right? You have people who aren't required to do that, thinking they know any and everything. I'm not just talking about therapists. I'm talking about, all the sort of ancillary stuff where, and it proves as damaging. And this is why we see the stuff we get. Even the sort of weaponization of therapy terms in their wrong context and things like that. That's the work of an incompetent therapist. I'll land my plane there.
Well played. So shout out Quiet Storm for the super chat.
And once again, salute to the chat, man. Y'all are up in here deep this Sunday, man. Y'all getting this good game. We got the kosher clinician who hails from the Tar Heel State. You got myself, Salty Balls in the building, collab. We're here on Machismo TV, cross streaming with the kosher clinician. Y'all make sure y'all do y'all best and subscribe to the brother. We will be live tonight in our regularly scheduled program. There's going to be a pre-recorded show. You know how we do our episodes as usual. And then obviously our Sunday night lives tonight. So more or less a triple header. But once again, y'all going ahead, y'all support and y'all subscribe to the Kosher Clinician. Mod, would you go on ahead, Quiet Storm, the gatekeeper, drop that link on behalf of the brother.
I had this banner on earlier, on and on, bang. Here you go. There's this banner on the screen at Kosher Clinician. We're at the 55-minute mark. I'm going to give you guys one more question, and then we'll get into Bobby. This is another question that you gentlemen may want to consider asking a therapist when you are seeking any type of mental health professional. And we'll start with Kosher at the top of the rotation. Kosher, pardon me. What therapeutic modalities or approaches do you primarily use in your practice and why?
Good question. Good question. Well, I believe that a competent therapist uses what I call an eclectic formation of knowledge in order to more or less eradicate issues with the client. But on cusp, I would say that I use cognitive behavior therapy because it's very universal and it's very broad. Solution-focused therapy, especially for EAP clients, employee assistance program clients. For boys, sometimes I use reality therapy. I've heard of narrative therapy. That's something I'm going to consider. And also logotherapy sometime, even though that's one of the therapies I've also considered in my repertoire. But once again, it's contingent upon the issues that the client is having. And you just got to be very unique in your artistic appeal when it comes down to disseminating. But those are some of the major ones that I use based on the clients that I treat now. But it can be also exhaustive based on the circumstance.
Well played, sir. Saul, I'm going to posit the same question to you. What therapeutic modalities or approaches do you primarily use in your practice and why?
I actually primarily use cognitive behavioral therapy as well. I mean, it is the most research and has undergone the rigor of big pharma level clinical trials. Okay, randomized clinical trials. So when it comes to intervention, its impact and associations with positive outcomes after treatment, CBT takes the cake. But given that I'm a specialist in treating people with a history of trauma and, treating people with a history of anxiety and depression, exposure therapy is actually, another good one that I use, where, people gradually are exposed in a controlled and a healthy environment to the sort of stimuli so that they're able to be desensitized to it and actually move forward so that growth can actually happen, right? You want to, that's the beginnings of, treatment is desensitization, because once somebody's desensitized, all the other things so that they can thrive can come in. And it goes back to Kosher's point. You have to be eclectic. If you're dealing with a therapist and they only say that they have a hammer and a wrench in their toolbox, right? And they're not able to name off a wide variety of different things, then you might want to consider other things, because eclectic is just a mix of things, and there's different people, different sensibilities, cultures, and things like that, and you kind of optimize with an eclectic approach, and that's somebody who's multiple trained and use different things as it is necessary. The other thing that I would tell consider for people in their sort of skill set is what sort of therapeutic frameworks in which they specialize in are interested in, right? That's something that you might want to consider, like whether it's Ellis, whether it's Freud. Well, I mean, what is their what is their knowledge of it? And I land my plane there.
Well played, sir. Guys, we are approaching the 1 hour mark, 59 minutes in. Let me address a couple things in the comment section. Lord of Brooklyn, BK for Life says, more and more intelligent women of all races are starting to hate social media for all the revelations it is providing about their actual thoughts and behavior. I say too little too late, but there is something to that. This Glow Hardy. They take away the autonomy of thought from their client and pretty much try to install a faulty personal cognitive processing theory. I agree with that. And that's Glow Hardy. The Professional Nomad podcast says, I hear cognitive-based therapy is great. And I think, salute Kid Chameleon. I see you in the building, Playboy. And Professional Nomad podcast says, I didn't know Saul was a fellow healthcare worker too. It's a lot of us in this space. I have noticed that as well. All right, perfect. Very good first hour, gentlemen. I
want to send a. I'm sorry, Machismo. I'm sorry to cut across you. I want to send a special shout out to my man, Mr. Ethereum. Tell him I say appreciate it, man. Thanks for the $20 cash app. Thank you, sir. I appreciate that, brother. Thank you, sir.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah, no problem. Guys, I'm just Saul's right once again. Like I said, Saul curated the show. Even the Sunday night live that everyone likes. That's all Saul's idea. I'm the pre-record guy. He had to twist my arm into that. And then he whatchamacallit, he got at me about the show with Coach, and I'm like, yeah, let's do it. It's an overwhelming success. It's clearly Saul's got his finger on the pulse of the space and knows what the brothers are looking for. This is a great turnout. And also it seems myself, just listening to the conversation as I facilitated, the conversation is great. A lot of insights and a conversation much needed to be had. And these gentlemen really are top of the game. I'm actually impressed with the back and forth myself, and I'm up here running the show. That being said, all right, we're going to get into the meat of the program. Those are the two questions that I thought gentlemen should be able to posit to a healthcare practitioner. And then I actually have a list of questions that Saul and I prepared prior to the show. I'll actually post those on the community tab for any of the listeners so that you guys have those as reference. That being said, we're getting to the Bobby E. Wright section. Bobby E. Wright, a renowned clinician from the 80s. And Saul selected this particular lecture that he's having, and I clipped just a piece of it because he's a precursor to a lot of the things that we're talking about in this space. And he's also, you'll notice at certain parts during this snippet that he's addressing a lot of the things that we collectively as a space have begun to address ourselves. And you'll see that these were ongoing problems, and you see some of their inception that goes all the way back as far as the 80s. And to that point, I'm going to load it up, and then I'm going to let Saul run this. So Saul, I'm going to load it up. I'm going to play it. You tell me when to stop it, and then you can facilitate the conversation back and forth between Coach and yourself in the 3-minute rounds. Fair enough?
Fair enough.
All right, let's go.
In this country is to get black folks to adjust. Some of the sickest black people I know. Remember, I do not call people niggers. I do not call them toms. I never use that word. I never use that word, and you shouldn't. That's the first thing you stop and just throw it out of your vocabulary. Right. Throw it out of your vocabulary. We have a right to have sick people like everybody else. And we should begin to differentiate between what's appropriate behavior and inappropriate behavior without getting into the name calling and all like that. Now, it's to adjust, and remember the definitional, I told you, remember that definitional warning I told you. Let's take a theory. Let's take a theory of Maslow. All of you heard Maslow, because blacks like it, because I'm sure where else it goes from. Maslow had a theory called self-actualization. All you remember, okay, first you have to fulfill, here's the way it's the model. This is the model. First, food, water, sex. Sex here is for procreation of the species. These basic needs must be met first. This is Maslow, but you all are trained, many of you are trained, because from this came transactional analysis, came pearls. I'll go into it in a minute. The next one is safety. That's the next level. Safety. That's the next level. The third level is self-esteem. Fourth level is love. And then self-actualization. That's the Maslow model. Give or take a line. That's the Maslow model. Right away, you should see clearly here. You should clearly, if you try to apply, no matter how good it sounds, this theory to the black experience, or to trying to treat blacks right away. We have problems getting food and water. Sex doesn't give you a problem yet, but women. No, it might be. Let me tell you about that. We got a problem with all three of these. Let me tell you why we have all three of these. Now remember, these are the hierarchy of needs. Maslow takes the position that in order to be a healthy, functioning individual, you must secure these needs and go here. A hierarchy of needs must be met. If that is true, we ain't never been safe in this country. If that be true, you can see right away, and I'm not teaching you all this so that you can go up and tell your professor that. What I'm saying to you is this is the way you do analysis. But in order to do analysis, you must first know it. You cannot analyze something you don't know. And we've been in this country 400 years and know nothing about it. That's a tragedy. That's Memphis.
Right.
That's and I'll talk about just a little bit about it. Okay, now, then, but look at what else Maslow said. He said, if you cannot do these things, most certainly you cannot have self-esteem. And without self-esteem, you cannot what? Love. Now, let me show you here. Sex, which was for procreation. How all of this ties in. Now, out of this, of course, out of this, what you call sort of non-directed counseling, came French pearls that all you all have up on your walls. I'm not in this world to satisfy you. You're not in this world to satisfy me. You do your thing, I do mine, and we happen to cross somewhere beautiful. You know, that same old BS they got us all doing, this individual stuff. You don't tell me what to do, I don't tell you what you do, you know, and all of that. And we're the only people that engage in that type of behavior. We're the freest people in this country in that respect. Where we individuals, you can do anything you want to, and the black community cannot sanction you.
Let's pause right here.
In one sense, we're the freest people in this country. No Jew can do.
Okay. Bars. Huh. So he goes from the needs, the base of the pyramid, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, okay? And then he goes on to the sort of hyper individualization where you do your thing, I do my thing, and we're the quote unquote onlyest people in this country. You know, more or less we're free, but we're free to do anything we want to do, you know, without some level of accountability. Mm-hmm. Now, this was said late 70s, possibly 1980, somewhere in there. You know, you see he got the little mini fro. He got the Apollo Creed going on. You know what I mean? He got the Richard Pryor. But, you know, this one would say this would be almost 45 years to 50 years to the date. What would you have to say about this in seeing this and thinking about this, brother?
You're asking me or Machismo?
Yeah, you, Kosher.
Yeah, well, listen, the more things change, the more they remain the same. And he actually reverberate the sentiment that you and I talked about in private, Saul. And also something that I talked about earlier in the show. We continue to do what's called transgenerational trauma. When we use the nomenclature of the oppressor, we use the talking points of the oppressor. We're actually what I call a psychic coma, a psychic comatose, where we talk liberation on one end, but we're still in what's called a suspended state of animation. Dr. Erickson talked about something called psychosocial development. And one of the hallmarks of psychosocial development was identity versus role confusion. One would argue that many men and women are still in a state of arrested development, and they're still gridlocked in identity where they don't have a healthy identity, which in essence reduces their ability to self-actualize and then see their greatest potential. I'm a firm believer that because we do continue to use the nomenclature of the oppressor, NIGGA, what's the other word they use? Coon. All these talking points continues to more or less proliferate the state that we're in as a people. No other group of people, whether it be Jews or Asians, use the nomenclature of the oppressor. So you can never self-actualize if you're still debasing yourself. I say it succinctly and say this is the essence or the higher conversation or higher conversation of critical thinking. A man can never totally self-actualize until he's one in God and Christ. once he has a true spiritual nature, a spiritual base, that's when he's self-actualized. Everything else is just a facade, in my opinion.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. And for those who want to take a look at Bobby Wright and his lecture on menticide, it is pretty much widespread. You should find it. It's an hour and a half long video. This is one of our pioneers that people kind of more or less look over. He is a University of Chicago, very, very prestigious institution, educated psychologist. Okay, went to start a nonprofit that helps some of the most disadvantaged people in Chicago, on the west side of Chicago in particular. And unfortunately, he passed on himself at an early age of 48 years old in 1982. But there is, we got to dig in the crates and actually bring this stuff out, because we don't want his legacy to be eclipsed, because there's a lot of guys who are speaking about, these sorts of phenomenon, not realizing that voices from the past are actually speaking to us and through us. And we need to kind of bring this stuff out, because, why go back down the road when somebody's actually have already trailblazed, in regards to this stuff. If we're not keen on history, we're bound to be, slaves of the present, which is actually happening now, this sort of hyper individuality. But with that being said, let's go on ahead and continue the clip.
You got it. Let's go.
All right.
Salute Hot Sauce. I see you in the building, Playboy. Drop by the Sunday night show. It's going to be a good one. I'll send you the link.
Do anything he wants to against the Jews. Right. No Irish can do anything he wants to against them. But any black can get up here and say and do anything they want to, and we cannot sanction them. Keep that in mind. What I'm talking about, and I'm going, like I said, we have to go, because I know we got a lot of questions. Now, the section now becomes a problem here, because, as you know, many of you have heard me talk about this today, but you should understand this. Today, in 1980, the group with the largest suicide rate in the nation are young black males, 17 to 33. Largest suicide group, the group with the largest suicide level. The group with the largest homicide rate, young black males, 17 to 33, killing themselves, killing each other. The group with the largest institutional rate, that means going into mental hospital and the prisons, young black males, 17 to 33. Now let me tell you the significance of that. The significance of that is this. The significance of that, let me go one step up. Now,
let's go ahead and pause it here.
Of homosexuality.
Let's go on ahead.
That's all you. Go ahead.
And as you stop it there, I want you to drag it back maybe about 10 seconds before, because he goes into something else. That's important too. Go ahead, Kosher. What's your assessment about that piece there with Dr. Bobby E. Wright?
Well, that's a good question. A good question. I think what you're seeing is there's a correlation after 1964 and the breakdown of the black family and the continuation of liberal indoctrination and liberal dogmas. Prior to that, I would say that black people were more healthy and their actualization was in God and faith and family and tradition. But it seemed like afterwards, you started, as the family began to disintegrate and break down, I think you started to see more mental health issues with black men, black boys, and I think it continues to proliferate now, sadly.
Well played, sir. Hold on real quick. Oh, Saul, you looks like the chat is familiar with Bobby. I've seen a bunch of stuff, but this is Lord of Brooklyn. He says, I was away from my computer and I could have sworn I heard Bobby Hemmett speaking. Clearly, Mr. Hemmett was influenced by him. And also, shout out to our guy, Andre, and Andrea Love Cross the Borders with the 10,000 Colombian pesos. He says, shout out to Salty and Kosher.
Shout out, Dre. Shout out to brother Dre.
Big salute, Dre. Thanks for coming through, man.
No doubt.
Yeah. All right. Let's
let's go on ahead. Let's go on ahead and continue to peel back this onion with Dr. Bobby Wright. Okay, a voice from the past. All right,
let's go.
Young black male, 17 to 33. Now let me tell you the significance of that. The significance of that is this. The significance of that. Well, let me go one step up. Now, when you raise the question of homosexuality, which means you're now also talking about the ratio of what? Black males to black females. Sex becomes now a problem here now. Well, and I'm talking about the way they use it for procreational purposes. And if we look at some of the statistics about that, which at 14 and under, at age 14 and under in the black community, for every 100 black females, there are 102 black males. From 14 and under. At the age of 14 and under, for every 100 black females, there are 102 black males. However, from the ages 14 to 24, for every 100 black females, you have 96 males. And then from 25 to 44, for every 100 females, you have 84 black males. 84 black males. Now, when you take into account the institutional rate alone, for example, let me give you an example of that. For every 100,000 black men, for every 100,000 white men, 105 in prison. Every 100,000 white men, 105 in prison. For every 100,000 black men, 1,004 in prison. 1,004 for every 100,000 black men, yet we are less than 15% of the population. All right,
okay,
now if you begin to look at those ratios, then you have to...
Okay, now since with Bobby Wright, some of those statistics have very much changed since 1980, okay? Black men are not necessarily going to jail at the same rate, okay? But some of the earlier stuff he stated when he's talking about mortality, be it, that's one of the things I kind of want to point to and kind of contextualize a question to, given literacy levels and that stuff as well. And obviously single-headed mother family households. What are your thoughts about that? And even before these young men even get to the world, what are your thoughts about that, Kosher?
Reiterate that one more time, brother. I want to make sure I'm hearing you clear. I apologize.
Well, since the time that he's done his lecture in 1980, roughly, right? Admittedly, so the incarceration rates when it comes to black men have changed, in our favor. Okay?
Yes, sir. Right.
But yet the outcomes, where he's talking about mortality rates, okay, as well as that in particular, what are your thoughts about that, and how it may still hold up today?
The mortality rates or the onslaught of trying to destroy black men? Which one?
That too. That was more or less I was getting at, from an institutional and obviously single family headed households or whatnot.
Well, I would say
under their watch. Yeah, under their watch.
Under the watch of mothers, right? Women. Yeah. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Well, listen, it goes back to what I said before, man. And I know, Saul, that when we look at what's called the Cal locus is called the child adolescent level of care utilization system. In that model or in that metric, it talks about something called risk factors and protective factors. A child in a very despotic environment is more at risk if you already have underlying mental health issues of self-deleting versus a child that's in an intact home, intact family where they have a masculine father and have the proper resources. Now, listen, are some kids beneficiaries of a concept called resiliency theory where they supersede the odds? Yes, but that's not the rule. That's the exception to the rule. So it goes back and more or less harkens into the ongoing disintegration of the black family, the minimization of the black male image, the ongoing onslaught of misandry through liberal schools and liberal talking points, and the lack of hearing the struggles and the pains of black men from a comprehensive perspective. There's a lot of cognitive distortions, of cognitive dissonance going on, where anything associated with black men is always through the lens of oppression and abuse. And because of those, some of those women have not properly or adequately healed, the transgressions of the fathers is being transmitted to the sons, and the cycle continues in this broken, what I call matrilineal succession that I talked about earlier. So that's my take on it.
Well, you know, for you all here in the audience, okay, and I'm not quite sure how much, you know, kosher clinician really knows about the framework or the theoretical underpinnings that Bobby Wright may have, you know, brought up, that is called menticide. But as you can see here, right, menticide is very much what kosher clinician actually defined. Okay, you break the mind, and therefore the body will follow.
Right.
And due to the environments, due to institutions, due to, you know, the environment that you're in, the most proximity that you have with so-called loved ones, where there's supposed to be the transfer of knowledge, pro-social behaviors, how to restrain oneself. And, you know, you can get on any of these panels here, even in this space, right? Black men just don't even have general respect for one another, right? We're easily, you know, we're so easy to dehumanize one another. Just like we played that video earlier, we were talking about, you know, the guy who's, you know, Biscuit going around shooting up everybody or whatnot. And simply, we don't care. When we see each other in the street, there's a level of suspicion. That's not necessarily our true nature. That has been something that has been planted by an environment where we internalize it. But supposedly, who is supposed to be one of the first quote unquote transferers of culture? They love to brag about that. Who wants to actually brag about being the first teacher? Right? We know who that is. So are you all seeing how these outcomes play out as a result? And with that being said, let me go on ahead and keep it rolling. Oh, we have a comment here. I'm gonna let Machismo go ahead and read that off.
Yeah, shout out Gregory Scotland. He says, too bad Mr. Wright was countered by the new school psychologists that arose in the late 1970s. They came on the talk shows Facts in the 1980s and 1990s, yup, and justified the feminist and degenerate behavior. He's spot on. He gets a Don DeMarco for that. Hold on.
Shout out to Gregory.
Yeah, shout out to Gregory. He's spot on with that. Don DeMarco.
Don DeMarco.
And that's for the $10 super chat. Does anyone want to do a quick 60-second response to that super chat before we play the tail end of this Bobby Wright?
I'll quickly, if I may. You know, he is absolutely right. You know, and that has continued. You know, there's actually Dr. Curry and his interactions with, you know, Texas A&M University, and him actually speaking about Black male specific issues. But, you know, there's this sort of mindset that, you know, post civil rights 1964 era, that, you know, Black men didn't speak up and that Black men didn't advocate for their interests and stuff like that. There's quote unquote this big dark hole. No, you know, things were, you know, editorialized and selected so that we are not able to see those things, and we're left back to kind of pick up the pieces. This is why we dug Bobby Wright out of the crate, and this is why pretty soon we're going to be digging Tony Brown out of the crate, so you all can see this sort of legacy, so that we can hold steady and strong with the bullshit. You know, people are putting the pieces together just so that you all can see it. And I see here, and much respect and shout out to the gentlemen who are in the chat who are actually familiar with Bobby Wright's work and so many other scholars who've been kind of pushed to the sort of annals of history, because we already know the agenda wants to do so. But I bet you they tell you about the Combahee River Collective. I bet you they tell you that. I bet you they have these sort of multi-syllabic word salad and stuff like that is the illicit guilt, shame, and all the other gobbledygunk that's out there or whatnot. So we need to dig our scholars up so that we can kind of train and groom young men to the proper tradition as far as Black male advocacy and our own self-determination.
All right, facts. So to your point, D says, I have the Psychopathic Racial Personality and Other Essays by Bobby E. Wright. And then we have another gentleman. He's been, D wrote this one too. He says, Walimu Barati wrote Menticide and Other Essays also. I'm going to post these on the community tab for brothers to follow up on. This turned out to be very good. The brothers really like this this content and talk, and us digging down to the nuance with this mental health when it comes to Black men. Chameleon with the $5 super chat, he writes, Keisha has become the new plantation from which Black men must escape. Hashtag no way out. Facts on facts on facts. And I like this one. Also, Fraser's book on the Negro family from 1939. Saul
the study of the Negro family. Fraser. E. Franklin Fraser. And guess what, Gregory Scotland? Another University of Chicago educated psychologist, right? If you all were to dig, I don't know what was going on in Chicago at that time or whatever the case may be. There is a sort of treasure of stuff that's there, where these guys were actually, speaking about what's going on, and all this. I mean, a lot of what Fraser got his sort of framework from was even from the sort of pioneering study of the study of the Philadelphia Negro, okay, with W.B. Du Bois, and some of the things going on then, right? So a lot of this stuff isn't anything new, because the Philadelphia Negro was written in the Gilded Age at the turn of the century. And guess what was already out? What sort of ideas were spreading? That sort of, Elizabeth Cady Stanton, Susan B. Anthony, and the sort of, would you say, bad seeds of what will be grown into sort of poison ivy of modern day feminism. People think that it's these iterations and these waves of feminism. No, that shit started, because of white women's bitterness that Black men earned the right to vote from civil rights and civil rights at the turn of the century and the Civil War. There wouldn't be any civil rights without any Civil War, in which we paid the cost in our blood. I'm playing there.
Right.
All right, excellent. Kosher said, all right, but we hit on something. He said we'll do another show on Bobby Wright. All right, nice. All right, so we cracked the can open on this. And then International Quiet Storm says, but social media says Black men don't read and aren't educated. Another 1990s debunked talking point. Yes, sir. All right, gentlemen, we are at the 1 hour and 29-minute mark. And for you, Kosher, it is 4 o'clock. I got to get you out of here in less than 30 minutes. Saul, we got like 3 minutes left for this, so let's play this out, and then we'll jump to the timestamp on the Mahogany Jackson thing, and I'll get you guys closing statements to get you up out of here, okay?
Yes, sir.
All right, let's go.
Project during the childbearing ages, how many functional Black men are there for each 100 Black women? And you run into some statistics of, say, less than 55. Less than 55. Now, given this reality, these are the type of problems I'm saying to you that you as a student must begin to, let's look at the other things together. So what they say is, okay, here's what they're saying now to us. They're saying, those of you who are making it, those of you who have PhD from University of Chicago and the head of mental health centers, you got it made. It's a class struggle now. Class. And as we all know, which they care. See what happened in the 60s. Why we lost the battle in the 60s. Why you never hear nobody talk about the 70s. How many of you people here talk about the 70s? Nobody. Everybody said, boy, in the 60s. And here we are in the 80s. You know, nobody talk. Because in the 70s, those whites regrouped and wiped us out. You see, here's what happened. White women saw their men in trouble. And like all female animals, anytime the male gets in trouble, the female attacks. That is a law of nature. A law of nature. If you don't believe it, we can prove it in a zoo anytime you want to. Now, what happened, white women came out and captured our women and convinced us that white women were not as racist as white men. And convinced us, or convinced our women, that they would place them above their husbands, their brothers, their lovers, their children, their sons, and we say, then the white gays came out and convinced our gays it was a gay struggle. And stole our gays, you know. Okay? White students came out and grabbed our black students, said it was a student struggle, and wiped out our black students. And all of a sudden, we up to wondering, where's the fight? You know.
Yo, I stopped it right there because that he knocked it right out the park. And here we go, 2024, and here we are. Like everything we talking about, because Saul pointed this out when he found the whole, this is an hour plus clip. I clipped it down to this. But right here, this tail end piece, this is everything we talking about right now. This is 1980. And we're talking, Kevin popularized it in the mainstream, just talking about how the feminists came in and, you know, now all the black women are feminists. And like he said, they put their allegiance with these white feminists over their man, even their children and the community. He said it right there. And now we seeing what's going on with the giblets and the HDTV. And he's saying like, yeah, and then they went and they took those guys. And then they went and took the students. And like, you know, now we're saying that the colleges are pretty much brainwash camps. Saul, it's all yours. Please feel free to direct the line of questioning.
Oh, well, I'm going to say this much, okay? Quote unquote. Bobby Wright didn't take any red pill because there was no red pill to take then. So you want to blame the truth on? I mean, this is a University of Chicago educated premier scholar saying this, right? So the question is, how are they distorting quote unquote reality these days to get people further from the truth? What say you, Kosher?
Well, it goes back to what you and I talked about, Saul. It's under what's called the veneer of victimhood. There's a power in victimhood. And what it does, it harkens to the sentiment that black men or men in general are the boogeymen. But also, Saul, it goes back to what theologians call original sin. Back in Genesis, it said that she will have a desire for her husband and he will rule over her, no different than the archangel Lucifer that wanted power from the Most High or Yahweh. And so it's been this ongoing jousting of power through victimhood. Think about it more succinctly. When you look at John Milton's Paradise Lost, guess what it said? It said that the patriarch God was unjust and he was mean to Lucifer. And Lucifer used the concept of victimhood to gain sympathy from the masses. So it was an onslaught or a rebellion where 1/3 rebelled against the patriarchal order and the 2/3 remained intact. It's no different than what the serpent did to the woman back in Genesis. He said, you shall become as gods. And now, because women want power, they have been so compromised to the point they don't understand that they were often used as agent provocateurs to their own demise. And now the chickens are coming home to roost, sadly.
Well played, sir. Saul?
Excellent. I mean, hey, he didn't drop the mic on that too.
Yeah, no.
You got that fire for your mind.
Fire for your mind.
Yeah, he's coming up here like Wrench and Nameless.
Yeah.
I should put you last, Kosher.
He like, man, I can still tango on the ring, body and motherfucker. All right. Let's go on ahead. Was that into the clips?
That's it. That's the end of the clip. Yeah, that's all of Bobby. I thought the piece I clipped, I thought it covered the full range of some of the ongoing issues we have now and put it in the proper framework from a historical standpoint. And I thought it provided a framework for you and Kosher to have the conversation. We're at 136. Let's jump to this. Let me not give away the Easter egg. Let's jump to this clip about this woman. This is Tito roasting some woman online, but we're going to jump for the sake of time. We're going to jump to the timestamp where she's talking about the Mahogany Jackson incident, and then we'll end it with that. I'm watching the time for you, Kosher. I got you, Playboy.
All right, brother.
And for those in the chat, I'm dropping links for Bobby E. Wright in case you all want to listen to his lecture. All right, go ahead, Machi.
No, that's cool. I'm loading up the clip. You good?
Yeah. So so if you all want to just follow up and listen to more of him, very, very, very insightful brother, and in some ways comedic. You'll see.
Oh yeah, and you know what's funny? The picture I have, he looks like Richard Pryor a little bit, and he talked like him a little bit.
Yeah, he do.
Let's pin his comment.
All right, bet. This is Tito roasting his bro. I'm gonna jump to the timestamp. Give me a second, fellas. It's about 8:15, 6, so we can get right to it, and we can shave down some time. All right, cool. All right, so I'm a little bit before it, so I'm gonna let it breathe. I'm a little bit before it. Let it breathe. Let me pause it. Tito went to town on this broad, but I'm just gonna give away the Easter egg right now, so we can just save time. This is a black female therapist, and you would have never guessed it with her. And I believe she's got a PhD. She mentioned something about it during the stream, and the level of misandry on here is mind-blowing. And we all saw the TikTok therapist. And this is a good juxtapose because you have two elite level black male therapists. Y'all all high value men. Y'all already know how Saul get down in this space. You feel me? And you saw the conversation we had with regard to modalities, therapy in and of itself. We had them cold read some incidents. We had them cold read an incident on a plane. So we've covered the full range, right? And these guys, they even went heavy with Bobby Wright. Like we covered the gambit here. Black male therapist. Juxtapose this with these black female therapists, and we see why these conversations are important. I'm going to play it, Saul. You tell me when it stopped.
Okay.
Hold on, I got it on mute. That's me.
This is the part that was disheartening.
No,
4 of those men,
that's all
they
filter
graped her.
right there. That's all filter. That's not how she look. And she got on the lace front. You can see
Did y'all
the
hear what I
edge of
just
it when she
said?
leaned over.
4 men. This is disheartening. This young girl in her early 20s was set up. They beat her. They graped her. They took turns on her body. Her name is Mahogany. It's all across TikTok. And it goes to show the low nature of a lot of these men. Y'all would.
What about the proxy violence incident that just happened in Georgia, in DeKalb County? And I'm related to them people too, by the way. That's fucked up. But yeah. On my father's side. Let's go.
Energy. So if a man has a lustful appetite, what you got to understand is this, is that lust has an appetite that could never be filled. So if you think, oh, he just freaky with you.
Go ahead.
Let's stop here. Okay. All right. Do you have that clip, the sort of news? I want that news article. I just kind of want to pull that up here. that link?
Yeah. Here, I'll drop the link in the chat for everybody. Because if I share the link, I got to take the video down.
Okay, go on ahead. We got to share this link just so that people can see for
No, I'm
themselves.
gonna drop the link in the chat. Hold on.
Okay.
There it is. That link on the chat is from the local area. Hold on. There it is. And that's actually all of. She's communicating this story online. This is a professional therapist.
Okay.
All of the suspects are on that link. This is their arrest mug shots. She's conveniently leaving a tremendous amount of this story out.
So
purposefully. Go ahead, Saul.
So just so you all know, okay, let me go on ahead and bring this up to context. And God bless that victim and her family. Okay. All right. So people should not be playing political football and social football with situations like this. This lady is fear mongering and using trauma as a way to, to increase her clientele or whatever she's doing. She's grossly incompetent in what she's doing. But the truth is the truth, okay? Those links that we've dropped in the chat, okay, is where there were 4 black men and 4 black females, okay, jumped the lady, okay. They all, unfortunately victimized this young lady, okay. But the ringleaders were the females, in which they spat on her, straddled her, and traumatized her, and directed her to be, perform sexual acts on the men. Okay, this is what the females did. Okay, when you look at the pictures, the mug shots, and you look at what was done, you could ascertain what community was involved. The giblet community, right? Okay, so this is why something quote unquote so heinous, right, has kind of more or less flown under the radar. And this lady here, who's quote unquote a therapist, is using this to exploit the situation, to fearmonger, and to, really, really play on her sort of sick dehumanization of black men, but does not want to hold, anybody else accountable in that regard. So with those facts, Kosher, I also, provide you the link in the back chat as well
yes,
as the
sir.
main chat.
Thank you.
What say you about what she's doing?
Well, it more or less harkens what I said earlier. It's power and victimization. As I said also earlier, men are seen as the boogeyman, especially the black man. The talking points of this woman is used is no different than what white supremacists use as when they try to paint the picture that black men were very barbaric, very viral, dangerous, and having a darker hue makes it worse. This woman potentially is dealing with some unresolved trauma herself. She probably was a victim of being violated, and basically what she's doing is counter transference in the public media, and it's unfortunate because that's the thinking era called overgeneralization, where it's a cognitive distortion and an ego defense mechanism when we tend to assuage or ascertain that everything negative associated with black men is bad. And so it's called the boogeyman effect of being a black man in America. So I'm not surprised. When I went to UNC, love my school, good school, but it's always these liberal talking points that black men are bad, black men abuse, black men are the boogeyman, and that's no further from the truth, because like you were saying, the women also were the ringleaders. But it also goes back to the negative socialization, Saul and machismo. What are little boys made of? Puppy dog tails and snails. That's what little boys are made of. And that promulgation continues not only in the media, but it also continues in academia, where they want to continue to suppress the voices of men and to make men bad, women good, women victims. So it's power and victimization as it goes back to the annals of history from the book of Genesis. She will have a desire for a husband, but he will rule over her.
Okay. Very, very, very well done. Very well done. Very, very great feedback. I want you all to in the chat to do more research on this particular story. It's continuing to develop every day. What a sick and heinous crime to be done in general or whatnot. But we have to be honest about the truth and how people use it to play quote unquote political and social football when the facts are what they are. You know, it's flown under the radar because a particular giblet community is in regards to this. This is a 2.0 of what happened in Mexico, how they all set up that girl and they were jealous of her and they jumped her, the one from North Carolina. 2.0 version of that. Okay. Right. And this seems to keep happening with, you know, this particular community. And my last question to you is, how does quote unquote flying monkeys, mean girls, and narcissism cater into the sort of violence in this regard? You know, the sort of delusion of grandeur. Land my plane there.
All right, perfect. All right, guys, we're at the 146 mark. Let me get your final response on this and your closing statement. And then it's 4:17 for you, Kosher. We're going to get you up out of here, okay? We're gonna end the show. All right. So whenever you guys are ready, let's go.
I feel all in all, if you all didn't learn anything else today, you learned how important, you know, mental health is for Black men. You learn about, you know, what sort of questions to ask a potential therapist, what sort of frameworks are at play, and how to kind of navigate the sort of social scenery, whatnot. We may very well do a part 2 to expand a little further. I know that Kosher alluded to that, but, you know, these are our pioneers in particular, you know, Bobby E. Wright. There needs to be more of his material being distributed in the space so that people understand that there were people out there, voices from the past, you know, who are advocating on our behalf. I appreciate, you know, Kosher for coming through. He came through, he knocked it out of the park. Support the brothers in regards to mental health. I want you all to go on ahead and do me the favor and make sure y'all subscribe to his channel. He puts out a lot of heavy work. Very, very good dear friend of the Machismo Television Network. And I like to land my plane there. We're going to be doing our regularly scheduled programming tonight, Sunday Night Live with our live panel. You all are welcome to stop through there. But let me go ahead and pass the mic to
and we're going to do a new clip show streaming tonight too, prior to the Sunday night show. It'll probably be on around 7 to 8. That we'll be recording that live too. We're doing a triple header to that. Before you close your statements, Kosher, let me give you one of these. Now, I want to thank you, man. I watch your content all the time. You came up in here and like you brought your A game, man. Like really.
I appreciate it, man.
I appreciate it, brother.
I appreciate it.
Really, you shut the panel down, like clear and concise. All your responses under 3 minutes. You always had like a minute and some change to spare. Right. It's a very good conversation. Like I said, sir. I'm facilitating the show, and I'm caught up. Like, oh man, I'm forgetting to check the chat. Go ahead, sir. Your closing statements.
Well, listen, this was a powerful conversation. I think not only was it powerful, Bobby Wright gave me some more intel to use for future shows. I think I'll probably pair it with Dr. DeGroove's work of post-traumatic slavery disorder, and I'll see if I can find some parallels to Dr. Bobby Wright's work and Dr. DeGroove's work on post-traumatic slavery syndrome. I think it was an awesome show, man. I was very impressed. I really appreciate you and Saul allowing me the opportunity to come on the show and drop some gems. I really appreciate it. And it was good, man. It was way better than I expected. It was damn good. Good show, man. You and Saul did a good job putting it together, man.
Me too. You ain't the only one. Me too. I was like, all right, man, we're really around like the 30-minute mark. I was like, okay, we got something here.
Right.
But like I said, man, I appreciate you, man. Like, and I just appreciate you for showing up,
being
ready to go. You know what I'm saying? It was a fantastic conversation. I got to get everybody. I got to get Mr. Clay. He said, I sent you a cash app. Appreciate you guys. Thank you, sir. Make sure I get everybody. Kid Chameleon for the $2 super chat. He says therapy equals feminism, re-education facility. That's a fact right there. And then make sure I didn't miss. Did I get this? My guy Gregory Scotland says James Baldwin, Langston Hughes, and Lorraine Hansberry focused on being black first over being alternative. Compare them to today. Spot on. And Saul always makes reference to the Harlem Renaissance. And we are of the opinion that there's a certain type of renaissance happening with the black men speaking in this space today. We're at the 1 hour, 51 minute mark. Thank you guys for your closing statements and for facilitating a wonderful and informative panel. We're actually going to probably have to revisit this again because I think we've opened up the can of worms for a million other questions. The chat was very engaged. All of the references to Bobby Wright and any other writings, we'll put them in the community tab. On that note, do you guys have anything else before I play the outro and get us up out of here? You're at 4:22 for you, Kosher.
Sadly, the more things change, the more they remain the same. We're living in very perilous times to test the souls of men. There's a pernicious attack, which I think is not only sociological in nature, but also spiritual, that's trying to not only destroy masculine men and masculinity. As you guys know, my channel was flagged 3 times in the last month, but it's trying to silence men to what means Saul often talk about in the clinical world, having the right to self-determination, to live your life on your own terms, free of shame, free of guilt, free of harm, and free of distress. And so there are forces behind the scene. The machine is also working actively to not only to desecrate the image of the black man, but also men in general, as we seek for resolve in times where the world doesn't want resolve, but chaos is the mantle for the day.
Well played, sir. Saul, 60 seconds, all you.
I say do not necessarily have the sort of reactive identity to where you're reacting based on the trauma, the dehumanization, and bullshit. When it comes to the plantation, we already know what that is, right? Put yourself in a sort of peaceful environment and actually get help and heal, right? By your own time and means, so that you can actually reach self-actualization. Mm-hmm. That's what Kevin said all the time. The best version of ourselves. Mm-hmm. He was just basically saying in everyday language what self-actualization is. And I land my plane there.
Well played. Well, once again, I want to thank everybody for coming out. New clip show streaming tonight before the Sunday night show. Sunday panel, which is the favorite. And that'll be streaming around 11:30 or 12. The new clip show will be streaming probably around 8 o'clock. I'll post it on the community tab. We're doing a triple header today. Once again, thanks to our guest, Kosher Clinician. I appreciate you for coming by.
Yes, sir. It's a pleasure. Yes,
sir. And really, like I said, really more so than anything, just bringing your A game. This is a fantastic. To our replay gang and to everyone in the chat, thank you as always, and we are up out of here.
Man, I'm gonna say something, IQ, that I haven't said to you, Machismo TV. Make sure you drop the link in the comment section so guys can subscribe. We have over 131 people here. Man, that last part I have always been jealous of. I wish that, you know what? I'm gonna take it. I ain't gonna even lie. That's gonna be one of my drops. That's gonna be one of my drops on the machine. We've done so much with so little for so long. That right there, I have always been I'm like, I wish I'd have thought about that or using that clip first, because I'll sit back and see you guys either create a YouTube channel or you guys will say something or do something on YouTube that makes me like, man, I wish I'd have thought about that. And that little part, I've always been a fan of. We have done so little with so much for so long. I'm like, these motherfuckers. I say, can I take that? Can I steal that? No, I can't do it. But I ain't gonna even lie. I'm gonna go ahead and use that little small segment. So just in case you guys hear it on the drop, bam, we've done so much with so, yeah. That's been one of my favorite parts. Make sure that you guys subscribe to Machismo TV. Those, once again, especially if you are a third shifter. There is no way in the world you should not have Machismo TV and you are not have Machismo TV and you work like late second shift, like you're doing overtime, or third shift. They will get you through the night. We're talking about all night, no commentary, no big mouths like Andre, and they'll just give you back-to-back video information. Back-to-back video.
Sorry. Hey, where's Stewie? That's tomorrow, and that is it for us today. Okay, I don't know. Whatever it is, it's not right on the teleprompter.
There it is. We are going to do Sting, yeah.
There's no words there. To play us out. What does that mean, to play us out? To end the show?
Yeah.
All right, go.
In 5, 4, 3.
That's tomorrow, and that is it for us today, and we'll leave you with a... I can't do it. We'll do it live. Fuck it. Do it live. I'll write it, and we'll do it live. Fucking thing sucks.
In 5, 4, 3.
That's tomorrow, and that is it for us today. I'm Stewie Griffin. Thanks for watching. We'll leave you with Sting and a cut off his new album. Take it away.